Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I do happen to be standing on a yoga mat, but if you don't have one, don't let that stop you. Just find a place in your house that's not too slippery, maybe a carpeted space. And I also happen to have a couple of blocks. If you don't have blocks, some thick books would do the trick. If you prefer not to be barefoot and to be using your shoes for this, no problem, totally okay. I have a folded blanket. It's a little bit of a towel in case padding knees or sitting upon it feels good. And actually, I like to have something like a cushion. Also, I have a bolster, but you can just pull a cushion from your couch, and that could be your bolster. Lastly, always nice to have a chair. It's a good thing to help us get down to the floor when we get there, and also helpful for balance. I think your best bet is to face me and let me do the moving around so that it's easy for you to follow the instruction. We'll start, as we often do, in our bedrock of all poses, Tadasana mountain pose. Feet hip distance, turn your palms away from one another. Stand tall and think to yourself with a soft bend in your knees that you would like to stack hips over heels, and above that, shoulders over hips over heels. And without jutting your chin forward, just lean the back of your head back like there's an imaginary wall so that we can stack ears over shoulders, over hips over heels. This is where we stop so that we can start. Feel your breath rise and fall. And if possible, see if you can breathe simply through your nose. Of course, just breathe any way that you can. Our practice will take place facing the long edge of your mat. And again, if you don't have a mat, just imagine. And I want us to place a couple of our props before we even move around. So the tall blocks or books are going to be placed behind your working area on the long edge of your mat. It could be that you position your chair off your mat, out of your workspace, and halfway down your mat. So those are just nice to have at the ready. And then we will stand in a wide stance, so thumbs to the sky. You can measure that you have your ankles underneath your wrists. We always want to keep the thumbs to the sky so we're not shrugging our shoulders into our ears. From deep in your right hip, turn your right foot to face the short edge of your mat. It's actually happening in your hip, but your foot is evidence that you've made that. And then 45-degree angle with our back foot. So slide your left heel back at a 45-degree angle. We still have the width of wrists and ankles kind of roughly lining up. And then bend your front knee. What we don't want is the knee to go forward of your ankle, which mine is doing. So that just means a little bit more space, possibly a little bit wider than your wrists and your ankles. And we'll do a dynamic warrior two. So bend your front knee and then straighten your front leg and make a V shape with your thumbs to the sky. We'll add a little tempo to that. So bending your front knee and then straightening the front leg with a V shape, thumbs to the sky. Bending and straightening. As you bend your knee, really let your right heel stamp into your mat, and as you straighten your leg, let your right big toe mound press. So we're just organizing the muscles that we're using as we go back and forth in our dynamic warrior two dance to get us warmed up. Let's do two-ish more. If your tempo is a bit different than mine, celebrate it. We're all a little bit different. Now pause in your warrior two just for a moment. Thumbs to the sky. We're stacking that knee over ankle in the front leg, and then see if you can find a little bit more oomph into the back foot. So the arch is lifted and alive and the outer edge is solid, and then your back thigh bone is pressing into your hamstring. Lower your arms and straighten your front leg. Turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat or your imaginary long edge. Then from deep in our left hip, Turn your left foot to face that short edge of your mat. Cheat your back heel at a 45-degree angle, thumbs to the sky. We'll measure, but we should be pretty good since we're still in our stance. But we assure that the knee and ankle align. We don't have that jutting forward. And then straightening your front leg, thumbs to the sky, press into that left big toe mound. Bend your front knee, warrior two. Straighten your arms overhead with a thumb to the sky, V shape. And we'll go back and forth. Our dynamic warm-up on our second side. Try to stamp into your left heel when your knee is bent and press into the big toe mound when your leg is straight and you're V-shaping to the sky. Let me give you a little moment of silence to just appreciate the movement and your breath. Now bend your front knee, thumbs stay to the sky, and we'll stay with this just for a moment. Our warrior pose, stamp into your left heel. Feel the outer edge of your back foot and the lifted and alive arch. Pause a couple of moments. Feel how powerful you are as a warrior, on your mat, but also off. 2 moments together here. Straighten your front leg and let your arms lower. Turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. Now, it's a good thing that we have situated our props just in case we want to use them for our next pose. Turn your right leg out so that your right foot faces the short edge of your mat. Thumbs to the sky. Bend your front knee. Familiar, right? We were just here. This time, however, take your right forearm onto your right thigh. Now, I'm not asking you to side bend, so you want to make sure that we keep a hinge at our hip, right forearm across the thigh, left thumb to the sky. And you can imagine spinning your inner upper arms away from each other, not towards each other that collapses us, but away from one another, so the architecture is one of space. Now, eventually, it might be that you take your right hand onto your tall block or even place it onto the seat of your chair instead of your forearm across your thigh, but these are not necessarily goals. If we have goals, it's to find the hinge at our hip, the elongation of our spine, the spaciousness between our shoulders and our ears, and we're convincing our right thigh bone over to the right as opposed to having it collapse over to the left. Shall we take a little moment of meditation here? 3 moments in what's called side angle pose. Now, firm through your feet. So we build our poses from the ground up, and when we dismount them, we do the same. Firm into your feet, let your low belly lift so you feel that there's some trunk stability. Come upright into your warrior two, thumbs to the sky. Straighten your front leg and lower your arms. Turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. Now, if you're using props, we don't want them underfoot, so the mindfulness that we apply to our practice also applies to our props. Move your block off your mat so it's out of your workspace, and then thumbs to the sky. Turn your left leg to face the short edge of your mat so you see evidence of that as the foot. Cheat your back heel at a 45-degree angle, and then bend your left knee. You're kind of thinking front thigh parallel to the ground. Again, these are not set in stone goals. These are just directions. You're the expert of your own body. I am merely your guide. Left forearm across your thigh. Right thumb to the sky, still not a side bend. We're not sticking our butt out behind us. You want to feel your left hip hug underneath you. Feel that karate chop of the forearm. If at some point it's of interest to put your left hand on a block or on the seat of your chair, we always make sure that our head doesn't go lower than our hips. So you want to make sure that this is not a collapse moment. There's length in your spine, spaciousness between your shoulders and your ears. You can kind of convince with your left forearm, left thigh bone to the left, not collapsing to the right. And then we'll stay here for our little meditation moment. and breathe. Try to keep an anchor in your back foot, outer edge pressing, back arch lifted. Let that be part of your meditation here. 2 more moments as we are. Firm through your feet. So remember, with our dismount, just like during the pose, we build it from the ground up. Low belly is lifting. We come upright. Warrior 2, thumbs to the sky. Maybe a little spice in that front thigh. Lower your arms, straighten your front leg, and turn all of your toes to face the long edge of your mat. Let's tend mindfully to our props and just make sure that they are not underfoot. Once we're here in our wide stance, we're going to use it one more time. Turn your right leg out so that your right foot is facing the short edge of your mat. Cheat your back heel at a 45-degree angle. The same props, so either the seat of your chair, and you may want to move it so that it's within reach. So you can just turn your toes forward, heel toe, situate the chair so that it's where you can put your right hand, and then turn your right leg out again and meet us here. Or you have your tall blocks, thumbs to the sky, hinge at your hips. So just like our side angle, we're not doing a side bend, we're hinging at our hip. It's a little sassy left hip lifting, and you're reaching out long so that we keep that length in our spine. And then you will find the seat of your chair or your tall block with your right hand. And sometimes blocks aren't tall enough because our hamstrings are tight or whatever else. So the seat of the chair can be a really good idea. Now keep your left thumb to your sky, to your sky. And see if you can press into your right big toe mound a bit. Since we have a straight-legged posture, we want to build from the ground up. Using that big toe is going to prevent us from falling out to the outside of the foot, and we like that. We'll stay for a few moments here. Steady breath. Steady stretch. Some of the stretch is in our right hamstring. A lot of the stretch is in our patience. So we try as we triangle. I'll be silent. We'll stay here for a few meditative moments together. Now I'd like you to add a little bit of bend into the front leg as our dismount starts to happen. Firm through your feet and your belly. Make your way upright, thumbs to the sky. And then take the prop out of the way so it's no longer in our workspace. Turn all of your toes to face the long edge of your mat. If you're using your chair, this is when you're going to want to relocate the chair for our left side. So you can heel toe your feet together, mindfully move the chair, and then come back and we will turn our left leg out so that the left foot's facing that short edge of our mat. Cheat your right heel at the 45-degree angle we've been talking about. Thumbs to the sky, a hinge at your hip, not a side bend, a hinge at your hip. Reach long like you want to touch somebody who's just out of reach. Have a little soft bend in your knee and then find the seat of your chair or find your tall block. And we pause in our triangle as Tippy wanders through. Tippy is a very good triangle assist. Let your inner upper arms spin away from each other. Remember that your right thumb is to the sky. Can we find the aliveness in our back arch even in this posture? I find that sometimes gazing down helps my neck and even my balance. You can try it on for size. You can look right out in front of you. I'm choosing to look at you. Some people like to look up at their right thumb. So again, you're the expert, I'm the guide. A few meditative moments. with a little bit of silence as we try in triangle. Now let's build it from the ground up as our exit. So feel that left big toe mound press, a little bit of bend in that front leg, firm through your belly, come all the way upright, thumbs to the sky, we land it, turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat, mindfully moving props. And also the option to heel toe your feet together to move the chair over to the right. I think the chair might be a really good tool for most of us, so I'm going to actually set that up with you. Heel toe your feet together, find your chair, move your chair so that it would be reachable the way that we did our triangle just now. We're going to take our triangle for a little bit of flight, maybe. We'll see. So stand once again in your wide stance, ankles underneath wrists. Turn your right leg out and cheat your left heel back. From here, hinging at our hip, place your right hand on the seat of your chair. Sorry for all the sounds I'm making, but you know it. I'm practicing with you. We're doing it together. Now, option always to stay exactly as we are. So if this feels like pretty much the challenge for the day, I agree. Maybe come upright. Make your stance a little bit shorter, just so it's more manageable. Hinge at your hip, take your right hand onto your chair, and think about leaning onto your right foot until your left leg can float off the ground. It's just silly good fun. Give it a try. If it's not for you today, that's okay. You can stay with the triangle pose that we're all going to return to in a moment. Remember, we're trying with triangle. It's all about the try, the willingness to try. Now put a bit of bend in your right leg, slide as gracefully back into triangle as you possibly can. Cheat your left heel at a 45-degree angle. Feel the right big toe mound press and the inner upper arms spinning away from each other. And then we just take a few moments here, like a bit of a meditation. And then firm through your feet and your belly and come all the way upright, thumbs to the sky. Carefully turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. Let's heel toe together so that we can situate our props. There might be a couple of us who decide to do this using the tall block. That's fine. I just want you to be careful that you don't put your head lower than your hips. So that's our story and we're sticking to it. I'm going to now move my chair and try not to make a whole bunch of noise in your ear as I do it. I mean, you know, we're in it together, right? Then let's find our long stance, kind of ankles underneath wrists for the time being. Turn your left leg out, cheat your right heel back. First, let's just triangle together with our hand on the chair base. So that's going to help us get a little more precise with where it wants to be situated. Left big toe mound is pressing and our upper arms are spinning away from each other. You're welcome to stay just like this the whole while, or firm through your belly and come upright, thumbs to the sky, and just walk your back foot, heel toe it forward a little so we have a slightly shorter stance. I think it makes it a little bit more manageable for our launch. No side bend, hip hinge, left hand on your chair base. You can bend your left knee a little bit and just play with the left hip hugging underneath you, your hand remaining on that chair, and maybe you lift your right leg. It's an experiment. That gaze conversation that we had, you may want to look down. I think that can be helpful. Again, I'm trying to look at you. Some people even like to look up here. Talk about a balance challenge. Now stay with it and breathe. Allow your left hip to hug underneath like an anchor. And you can always go back to triangle before I mention it. 2 moments here if you don't mind. All right, ready? How gracefully can we lightly step back into our triangle? So right leg steps back and lands. Keep your hand on your chair so we know where we are. A little bit of bend in your left knee. Firm through your belly. Come all the way upright. Thumbs to the sky. Turn all of your toes to face the long edge of your mat, and then heel toe, heel toe. Pause for a moment in your mountain. We've had a wide stance for a very long time. Let's appreciate coming back to center. We will relocate our chair in front of our mat, just in case it's helpful to get to the floor in a moment. And I would say having your folded blanket and or your cushion nearby would be a good thing too. Stand at the front edge of your mat with your feet hip distance. Inhale, V-shape, arms to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, take your hands onto your thighs. So a little sun salutation. Inhale your heart forward. Hinge at your hips, hands to the chair base is a pretty great way to the floor, or maybe your hands on the floor, but this is a mindful act as well as we come down onto the ground. Once you're onto the ground, I'm going to grab my folded blanket and then sort of like doing triangle with both of our legs at the same time. We'll sit on our folded blanket with our legs wide. And here are a few things I want us to be careful of as we do this. So I'll show you from a side angle. What we don't want is this kind of Dracula roundedness. So by sitting on the folded blanket, or I think even better yet, onto a cushion, that will allow us to sit upright. And then you can work your legs towards straight. If they need to stay a bit bent, no problem. Meet yourself where you are. This is just us trying in another triangle, a triangular shape. And pause as we sit. Let's see if we can find some of that stillness of meditation that we were talking about in our standing poses. Just like we're finding and translating the length through our spine. If you curl your toes back, you can engage your muscles a bit, and we would like that. It could be helpful to find one of your books or blocks and then take it to the outside of your right leg. Now this is a hip hinge also, so I'm not suggesting that we collapse and reach. We're going to keep our right hand on the block, thumb to the sky with our left hand, and you can just walk your right hand a little bit to the right, but try to keep the left sit bone onto the ground. Remember our inner upper arms spinning and all that spaciousness we found. Let's bring that into this pose. Last couple of moments where we are. See if there's tightness in your jaw that you can let go of. Just like you're feeling some tightness in your inner thighs and in your hamstrings that we're hoping to let go of. Now firm through your belly, just like our dismounts in triangle, and glide that right block towards you. Then we'll take it outside the left shin. We can start there. Right thumb to the sky. Now it's a hinge at our hip, so we're not letting it become a collapse. And we just slide that book or block out. Remember to engage your legs. Find the inner upper arms spinning. Solid into our right sit bone. I know it wants to lift up and come with us, but we'll try not. And then we untangle some of the stickiness in our body, but also some of the sticky thoughts that are incessant in our minds. Think to yourself as you inhale, let, and as you exhale, go. See if you can use that with every inhale and every exhale for a few moments of silence and stillness here. Move slowly. Glide your block with you. One last little experiment. I kind of like to take both of my blocks for this one. We'll walk it down the middle, but same thing. Remember the Dracula I showed you? Dracula is not invited here either. So hip hinge, engage through your legs, walk your blocks forward. You can press your hands into it, almost like you're thinking, I want to do a Sphinx pose, or like the slightest little smiling of collarbones, back bend in your upper back. So we just make sure we're not rounding. And then when you get the feedback of sensations, you stir that into our meditation, and that is our yoga. Two more moments where we are. Now walk your blocks back towards you. Move them out of the way so we continue to practice our mindfulness with our props. And then help this along. Hold the outsides of your thighs. Bend your knees quite a bit, and then just place your feet hip distance on your mat, a place where you can bring yourself off your cushion or your blanket and move that aside as well, and then lie down onto your back. Once you're lying on your back, we'll take a supine twist, which is just a fancy way of saying a lying down twist. Scoot your hips to the right, let your knees drop to the left. If you like, you can cross your right knee on top. If that feels a little bit more than you need, just keep your feet hip distance and let your knees scissor apart. And then through center, stamp into your feet so you can scoot your hips to the left now and spill your knees to the right. If you like to cross your left knee atop the right, you could do that. And then come down the middle, and we will release ourselves into our final Shavasana meditation. So arms along your side, palms face the sky. The inner upper arm spin is actually even part of this. I like to shimmy my shoulder blades underneath me so I'm not having a slump in my Shavasana. Perhaps it feels better to you to keep your feet on the ground and let your knees fall in on each other, or straighten one leg and then the other. You can cover yourself with something, cover your eyes or close your eyes, and then just fall into the floor and let yourself completely let go. Tippy is letting us know that it's time to come out of Shavasana. You can wiggle your fingers and toes, maybe even stretch your arms and legs away from one another. Move slowly. Draw your knees into your chest and roll carefully to either side. Bring yourself up to any comfortable way to sit. And maybe you sit back onto your cushion or back onto your folded blanket, palms up or down. A moment to seal our practice in seated meditation. Either gaze at the ground or close your eyes. 15 seconds here. Blink your eyes open. See if you can try beyond triangle to weave your yoga into your daily life. Try something new. especially if it feels a little bit wobbly, like some of the poses we did today. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.